Welcome to the latest episode of Bull Banter, the podcast where two brothers talk about the Macarthur Bulls, the A-League, and all things football. I'm Blake Sims, and I'm joined by my brother Daniel. How are you today, Dan?
Absolutely buzzing this week, coming off that exclusive interview with Bulls director Sam Kirstovich. And if you haven't checked it out already, it's up on our YouTube. It's almost past 300 views, I think. So for us, that's quite massive.
It sort of came out of nowhere. We're lucky enough to line it up after attending the match between Western United and Macarthur at Leichhardt Oval. We just happened to be sitting right next to Sam, and we're like, surely he'll jump on the pod, and he was kind enough to do that. So, thanks so much for Sam, and also the behind-the-scenes staff there at Macarthur FC. It was good to be able to talk to someone, with genuine power at the club, and thinking about it, like Daniel, you can answer this as well. Like, when we started this, did you think we'd ever be speaking to someone of that stature?
I mean, probably not, considering how dodgy the first episodes were with me and my headset and just without a bloody proper microphone.
But we've come a long way. We're now recording with a snowball rather than a headset.
Yeah, big
Good
things.
stuff.
But no, it's been fun. But we do have some games to recap because they've been coming thick and fast, and when you have games as lackluster as the Perth 1-1 game, there's nothing to really talk about for a 40-minute podcast. So quickly cover it now. What do you think, Blake? It was obviously a little bit of a snooze fest, as is to be expected when we face Perth after those last two games.
It's just what happens when Perth play. They just slow the game down. No, to be honest, like it's clear what Milicic set out to do there. While, we needed to pick up points, and every game should have been looked at as a 3-point, turnaround, trying to get the win and get that higher up in the finals. I think Milicic was playing the long game. I think he was a bit conservative in his team selection. A lot of the more senior players didn't travel. And I think he really just went out to get a point the same way he did the last time he went to Perth. And because of that, that travel, going to Perth twice in the same amount of weeks takes it out of you. And I think he used that time pretty well to blood a couple of youngsters. I mean, we saw Minu Najjar get a start after being out of the side for a number of weeks. So, he's come along, and he did make a bit of a difference in the goal. He was good for the pre-assist there for Meredith before setting up Derbyshire for our goal. But realistically, not much to say about this game. We just defended well. Perth had a number of chances more than us, but we never looked like we were dominated. It was just Diego Castro had one of those days where he was a bit unplayable. And what else can you say? It was just one of those days where neither team could get the better of the other.
Yeah, and obviously a few injuries sort of impacted the lineup decisions there. I think Charles was out for that game.
Charles was in for that game, but he got injured in that game.
He got injured in that game.
There was actually
early injury, right?
There was a stonewall penalty, right? Keogh dived for his pen, like fell over like a ton of bricks with the feathers touch, right? And, Diego Castro does what he does, slots the penalty, whatever. We come back, we fight back to 1-1. And then Charles, with his trickery and his dancing in the box, gets like taken down. If it was any other place on the field, it's probably a yellow, if not only a free kick. But for whatever reason, the referee and the VAR just decide, play on, doesn't matter. Now, you could argue Charles's last touch was probably taking him over the sideline. But in any case, like, he's avoiding contact, and the player has completely missed the ball and just taken him out. You have to say that's a clear pen.
Like, if you think back to the Newcastle game at home, the same thing happened there, where I think the foul was on Milligan, and it's one of the Sterling ones where he's just going to knock it out for a goal kick, but still gets, cluttered. But, we move forward, and Najjar, he has been featuring a bit more on the side recently, and, he's done okay, but he's still, finding his footing in the A-League, I'd say.
He has that quality where he looks dangerous, but he never has the end product. That's his thing. So he'll look flashy, and maybe, in training it's all coming together for him, but on game day, for whatever reason, he'll get into all the right areas. He'll make the crowd, hold their breath, and we're waiting for something to happen, and then he'll sometimes overplay it. Sometimes he's a bit too one-footed, relying on his left. Yeah, I don't know that he's necessarily got the quality for us for that position, but he puts himself about well and challenges well, and he's a bit of a physical presence in the same ilk as Michael Russ. So against certain sides, he can be a bit of a dominant force, but he's yet to really put together a top performance there that really stands out and says to everyone, hey, I deserve to be in this position.
Yeah, and we saw it against the Mariners there. He could have put us up 2-0, but the ball just sort of, got lost under him and just had to quickly turn out of it when, if he takes a decent first touch, then he's just got an open goal to blast it into. But, he'll come along, hopefully.
Yeah, you just feel like there's a bit of tension in his play, in his touch. Like, to contrast, look at someone like Susieta, obviously someone who's vastly different as a player,
much more
and at
experienced
opposite
well.
ends of his career. But
yeah.
you see the difference there, right? The long ball for the game against Central Coast, right, at home on the Thursday, when we had a quite quality crowd, to be honest, for a midweek fixture. But the ball gets floated through by Jonro. Susieta is in on goal, and he could easily have stuffed it up, taken a poor touch, but he just waits on it and waits for it to fall for him properly, and he just lifts it over the keeper. I mean, that's immaculate touch. And you compare it with some of our other players who maybe are not as developed, maybe haven't been in those situations as often, had as much practice or experience. It's telling. And we've been saying it all season, but you have to keep singing the praises. Susieta is just a god on the ball, man.
And building off that, I think after getting confirmed selection for the Socceroos, Genre just like played out of his skin in that Mariners game, and he did put the ball through for Susieta to get on the end of it, and it was a cracker ball. Just sort of picked it out, weighted it perfectly in behind the Mariners defensive line there, and he's going to be definitely a big miss for us at the weekend. But I suppose a silver lining is that Matty Simon and Rowan Tonic are missing for the Mariners as well.
Yeah, I think, is Simon gone? I don't think Simon's
gone.
Yeah,
I think I'm pretty sure he got selected, didn't he, for the Socceroos?
No chance.
Or am I thinking of a different Simon?
But Tonic, yes, very, very big miss for the Mariners. He's someone who pretty much had Matt Derbyshire's number in the 3 games we played him during the season. He's someone who's just so aerially dominant. Every time we wanted to, find Matt's feet up front, he was able to sort of get in a challenge where it wasn't sticking for Derbyshire. And we know he's sort of, better off with his head than with his feet. He's not a ball playing attacker. He's a tap in merchant. So, he was able to disrupt the play there. And Tonic as well, when crosses are coming in, he's got the size advantage and probably the mobility advantage on Derbyshire as well. So, it could be that it could work in our favour if Derbyshire's there and he's up against, a less experienced pairing in the centre backs for Central Coast on the weekend. It could pay dividends for us. So we'll have to wait and see there. But touching on your point about Genre, I mean, I think you and I, we noticed it against Melbourne City at home when we had that 1-1 draw. It's like he's flicked a switch. Like, he's become such a better player since then. And even though earlier in the season, you could say he was tidy, he had good touches, he was able to draw fouls and everything, but he's gone up another gear, another level. And we've really missed him in the games he hasn't been able to feature for us. Milligan's filled into that midfield role pretty well, but it's left us maybe shakier at the back. I don't know if, Jake McGing is the answer for that inside centre-back role. I think he's, more favoured position is out wide, but you've got to make do with what's there. And, it's been a little tricky for us to balance the ins and outs, the injuries and the national selections and stuff like that. But, we're going to have to deal with it. And it's on Central Coast as well to deal with it. in terms of the actual match, it was pretty disappointing to see Jack Clisby get as much space as he did. You know, he's not an amazing player. Sure, he's a bit mobile, but you'd expect that with some competent defending, you'd be able to shut him down and deny him space. But the fact that he was getting into our box and getting shooting opportunities, genuinely good shooting opportunities with very little pressure on the ball, several times, especially in the first half, was very concerning. Michael Russ, you know, we sing his praises about his attacking ability and, you know, his skill in being able to, you know, dribble the ball and run at players and just be that rapid person who's tough to slow down. But in terms of his defense, I don't know if he's had a whole lot of experience at this level and is knowing what's required in terms of getting up and getting back. He left his man, it has to be said, a couple of times. And that's what eventuated in Jack Clisby's first goal and what could have easily been, if not for a lucky offside, a second goal. So we're going to have to be aware of that. I don't know if Ante will end up going with Russi for starters on the right wing on the weekend, but we'll have to wait and see. What else did you pick up from this match?
Yeah, you know, we were pressing him well in the midfield, forcing him into a lot of errors at the back, and we were a bit more direct with our play, especially in the first half, sort of just getting on the ball early and looking forward, not just turning it, hitting it around the back, and sort of working around on that halfway line that we always like to do. And it really worked for us. But yeah, that their goals came from, you know, a player in the midfield, a Mariners player in the midfield being able to turn one of us and then sort of run at us and then attract numbers. And then with the Clisby goal, a whole side just gets, you know, sucked over towards the ball, and then Roos just lets his man go and he's free on the other side of the box. And then similar things sort of happen with the De Silva goal, which all credit due, it was a quality finish, top bins. But same again, Urania both times was the one, you know, carrying the ball forward, and for the Clisby one, he put the ball into Simon to lay it off for him, and then he found De Silva for that one. So
yeah. Urania, I think, man, he's a crafty player. He's not the quickest, and you know, he's certainly got some skill, but man, he pops up in the right positions. He's got that kind of Susaeta-esque ability to just pop up in the right spot. He was almost playing as a false nine at times, even though there's two up top for the Mariners, Simon and Urania. Urania drops off into that space in between the back line and the midfielders and just causes havoc. He's able to pretty much come untracked because either the centre back steps up and it's then creates this opportunity where Matt Simon can be 1v1 against his defender in the box. And that's not really something we want because he's quite strong and he's crafty as well. He can easily win a penalty if he wants to, or, you know, get under the skin of someone like Suznia. So, you know, does your centre back follow? Maybe not. If he doesn't follow, is a midfielder having the presence of mind to pick up Urania when he's dropping back? Probably not. I think we've discussed it before, how our defensive midfield stocks are pretty weak or lackluster because we've got a lot of the same player, that kind of tidy, you know, rotates the ball, makes the play go, and does a tidy pass here and there. But we don't have that enforcer in the midfield who's just got responsibility defensively.
A destroyer,
for moments in the game, but he's not a solid choice to do it for 90 minutes. And I think we do need the kind of player who can do both, who can be a defensive enforcer, who can, you know, stamp his authority on the match by being that defensive player, but also being that tidy distributor of the ball. And I just don't think we have that. So with that being said, Urania was able to run, you know, rampant, have a lot of space and dictate play. And that's where he's able to bring in Clisby for the goal. And, you know, even De Silva, he set up, he was able to drift wide, and then we've all pushed over and De Silva's, you know, got the ball that was coughed up in the middle and picked out a great strike.
Yeah. And, you know, I think in the interview with Sam, he mentioned defensive midfielder was one of the spots we're looking at, because obviously Milligan could, you know, fill that sort of role, but then it just leaves us so exposed at the back that is just better off playing in that back three, definitely. So it'll be a interesting one to see what adjustments Ante makes at the weekend. You know, whether we have a like defense first focus just to sort of thwart out Urania dropping into that pocket between the mids and the back and our back line. But
yeah, I'd say that Ante would want to go with that, at least for the first, 15, 20 minutes. Being a finals game, you got to, be a bit more conservative. You can't afford to be having that deficit so early on, because then it's a real uphill battle. And, Mariners at home with the crowd behind them, the crowd will cheer every single time, that time is wasted, or, someone kicks the ball out when defending. And they're the kind of team who also enjoys being back on the defense a bit, so they can set up those counterattacks, because, despite the fact that they're not super pacey, the likes of Daniel Bowman, Urania, Matt Simon even can put together a string of passes and really hurt you on the counter. So I'd say we'll probably forfeit a bit of territory and just sort of see it out for a bit, and then work into our possession-based game if we feel comfortable. Or we might do what we did on the other night that tended to work pretty well. We got the payment for that type of play with the Societa goal, so it can work where we go longer a bit earlier, but it has to be the right time and the right decision making. And it's all very interesting as it's set up for this final. And also we have to talk about the quite amazing moment where Federici came up in the dying embers of the game, Campbelltown thundering with anticipation. It gave you a little glimpse of what it might be one day if we get a lot of supporters week in, week out filling the hills and the grandstands and that. Federici trying to do his best Allison impression, but going one step further, trying the bicycle out, didn't come off. And despite the fact that it didn't come off, and it was just a nearly moment, it was pretty great to see. Didn't know he could get up that high.
He still didn't really get up that high. In all fairness, he didn't really jump for it, did he? But he went for it, and in another universe, that's gone top bins, and we've got a home final. But
send me that universe. Honestly, like that, I would have lost my mind. We would have just been replaying that. But anyway, what can you do? Maybe we're in the universe where we end up winning the title. I'd rather a title than Federici hitting a bike.
That's true.
I mean, if I'm greedy, I'm saying I want both, but you can't ask for too much.
Yeah, can't have it all. But I suppose rather than, we'll get into the, finals preview against Mariners. We touched on it a bit there, but we do have two other games to quickly sort of recap. We had the late fixture change to Leichhardt Oval against Western United. That's another way to put it. A stunning crowd of about 200 people, you would say, if that. It was Monday night and on very late notice. So
I think we've both played in front of more people.
Yeah, I think so. But credit where credit's due. It was a decent game, to be fair.
What more could you want on a Monday night? There's I think you got a Mars bar from the canteen, didn't you? And it was like,
it was expired.
Solid.
It was all the moisture had just sucked it up. It didn't have proper form. It was
dehydrated all Mars bar.
Concave. It was a concave Mars bar. And it looked white. So, but tasted bloody beautiful. And I'll tell you what else was beautiful was the amount of chances we created this game. We looked at times very, very threatening, and we could have easily had 4 or 5 goals on a different evening.
Yeah, definitely. We went up 2-0 through some quality play. We did the early switch to Derbyshire, who nodded it back for Societa to finish calmly. And Mark Milligan, who was sort of playing up in the midfield in this game, took it upon himself, and it was a goal very reminiscent of the one that Milligan also scored against Adelaide United at home earlier in the season, where he's just gone, righto, no one's tracking me. I'll dribble, I'll go further. And then he found the feet of Derbyshire, who just flicked it on, and wasn't as smooth as the first time he did it, but nearly left it behind. But he dug it out and just picked out this absolute bomb of a strike. Just sailed into the net. Top quality, and a real captain's goal. And at that point, when that goes in, because I think we scored 2 in the space of 5 minutes.
Yeah.
We're thinking, oh shit, yeah, like let's put 5 on them. We can get up into the top 4, whatever. And despite increased pressure and some good opportunities, we couldn't get it there. And Western United in the second half, not saying we took our foot off the pedal, but they switched up their play a bit. They were going a bit more direct, and they got a couple of corners. One of the corners, Guarashena pops up with a header. Happens. Probably wasn't tracked as well as he could have been, but sometimes you get that off the corner. And then it became very nervy. Jake McGing nearly scoring an own goal with there's not much else he could have done. It was one of those really awkward ones that, as a defender, you're just thinking, shit, I better get something onto it, because if I let it go through, it's probably going to get tapped in. But there wasn't really any way he could direct it. We're just lucky that Federici got a very fortunate touch pretty much off his heel, and then it's hit the post and come back out, and we're able to clear it. But Jesus, that would have been some way to not make finals, because I think it would have been very stressful playing Wellington if we had to get points from that. Very difficult.
That would have been a huge ask in that Wellington game.
And it begs the question, at times we're looking unbeatable. We're looking like no one can play against us, that we're in complete control of the game. We could score as much as we want, whatever. But at other points, we maybe get in our own heads. Maybe it's just the fact that the other teams are exploiting something, or maybe we're getting tired. I don't know. But we fade in and out of these games, and it makes you wonder, if we're only eking out a 2-1 win, because even towards the end of the game, the very last kick of the game was a corner for Western, and we're all, shitting ourselves. Ryan Scott had gone up, what's going to happen here? Thankfully, we cleared it, and the ref blew the whistle, and we're able to make finals from that. But man, it makes you ask the question: are we really deserving to be in finals? I mean, you look at our form in recent weeks. I think we've only won 3 out of our last 11 games. I mean, it's not finals form. Let me tell you that much. And 2 of those matches were against Melbourne Victory, who've been a basket case, and of course Western United, who the wheels have just fallen off their season. So it's not great form. And what else can you say?
Yeah, and when you consider the week prior, Victory dusted Western 6-1. So when we go up 2-0, 30 minutes into the game, you're thinking, all right, we can make up for our awful goal difference this entire season in one game here. But then, to their credit, they were quite resilient, to come back at us. And it's, as you said, been a recurring theme of us sort of taking the gas off the pedal, or the foot off the pedal. That's how the expression
also goes. One thing I wanted to mention from this game, so we were one of the hallowed few who were able to attend this one. We noticed at halftime, and it's only recently been reported that Mark Rudin has been sacked as manager from Western United. But we noticed a little tidbit before at halftime. The entire team was huddled up. The assistant coach, whoever he is, was going through some plans, and the team looked really together, and we're getting on board with it. And then Mark Rudin comes over, and before he can even get to the circle, they all break up and jog off, and they're not listening to him at all. So I don't know if they just hated him, if he lost the dressing room, or if he was too abusive or whatever, or they just lost faith in his project. But I think the writing was on the wall there.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't like playing for him. So, and it tried to be that authoritative figure without the success to back it up.
He's not Jose Mourinho.
No. But looking back at the game, Charles and Roos had 2 pretty good opportunities to give us a couple more goals, and on a different night, they somehow find their way in, and it's a 4-0 or 4-1. But that's
football,
that's
isn't
football.
it?
That's football. But it is worrying entering the finals with you know, it's only been like 2 times this season where we've put together a full 90-minute display of good, consistent football. And, you're always going to have lapses, but for them to be so, frequent and blaringly obvious where we sort of fall out of the game and sort of reacting rather than being the dominant force in the game.
Yeah.
It's just whether it's a mentality thing or the personnel we have.
It
It's
might
hopefully
be,
something we can eke out for next season.
yeah, it might just be a symptom of Milicic seems to favor the rotation of the squad. Keep everyone fresh, have everyone competitive, and playing across a range of positions. But maybe it's just that lack of familiarity with the mannerisms of the person who's next to you. Apart from the centre backs, we've had a lot of change across the field. Many different people playing different positions week in, week out, changing it up. So maybe there's that lack of familiarity, but yeah, it's not good signs. I mean, like, you're thinking what kind of MacArthur is going to turn up on the day, but even then, if we turn up and we're smashing it for 10 minutes, at some point there's going to be a 10-minute period where we just lose our bundle. So hopefully we can have one of those rare 90-minute performances against the Mariners and surge on into the finals. I think we're due one, to be honest, because the way we played against Wellington, despite resting quite a few first team regulars, especially our foreigners, it was not a great performance. But if you're going to have to get beaten 3-0, there's few better times to cop a 3-0 loss than having already made finals and being at the end of the season in a dead rubber.
Yeah. I suppose looking at it from a different perspective, though, do you want to enter finals on the back of a win and sort of on the high of winning a game of football, or on the back of a 3-0 loss where, no one really was a standout performer for us? And obviously we're resting a lot of key guys like Derbyshire, which I think will do him good because obviously he's been carrying us the entire season, so his back's ought to be bloody sore. So hopefully he can come out firing in the Mariners game for us on Saturday. But yeah, I suppose going into that game, you're thinking like you don't want to risk it. You don't want to obviously get an injury in that game and then shoot yourself in the foot for the finals, do you?
Yeah, and it's interesting because we bring on Puyo in the second half. We're 2-0 down, and you just want to steady the ship. You want to maybe get some minutes into the legs before finals, keep everyone fresh. And he gets the red card, which, despite not doing any damage, I saw it as a red. I mean, I've copped similar treatment from referees for that kind of challenge. So yeah, when I saw it and they were reviewing it, you're thinking, oh yeah, for sure. Like they don't review these things to take it away. Usually it gets upgraded. And I was actually very surprised, that there was such furor online about him. It should have only been a yellow or something because, despite the fact that you're late and yeah, you can't pull your leg away, like if you make that contact and your studs are up, you're gone. So that's an interesting one, an interesting dilemma for Milicic. Now, granted, Puyo probably wasn't in the first 11 plans, but he is a senior player for us and someone who can, on his day, do real damage to teams. So he'll be missed against the Mariners.
Yeah, and it sort of hurts us for that depth because he can cover, multiple positions. Like say in the finals, if Associado goes down, he can occupy that role in between the lines and in that like attacking midfielder role, but also, as a centre mid, even though his work rate is sometimes questionable, but
yeah,
he can cover a multitude of positions and do like a fairly competent job. So,
I mean, the cynical side of me is thinking he's just on holiday. He's here to go to Bondi Beach and surf and that. And he probably wasn't feeling going up to Gosford, the shithole town. It is quite a trek. Although he might want to go up to Gosford and just not have to be playing. Maybe he'll just go to the beach instead. Who knows? But, apart from that, not a whole lot of positives to take out of the performance against Wellington. Couple of defensive frailties. I mean, a lucky deflection for Hemed's goal. Sometimes that just happens to you. No one tracking Ben Wayne for his goal very late on. It's not a great goal to concede, but by then, had they switched off potentially, not saying it's a good thing, but that's just what happens. However, David Ball's goal was something special, and you can't take that away from Wellington. It was well constructed, through ball for Hamed, back heel, and Ball with the first time finish, putting it into the bottom corner. Quite good play. It shows you that they probably should have been a team in the finals, and if they maybe had a chance to have moved back home earlier in the season, maybe things would have been different. But thankfully for our sakes that they're not there.
Yeah, they're unbeaten in their last 11 games, so it just shows you like how well they came along. And obviously, didn't Stephen Taylor? He only joined halfway through the season, and he's been pretty big for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, not many good takeaways. I thought. Oh well, I suppose we should talk about Federici. Just been on fire again. These last 4 games, he's just been the MVP for our season. I think.
Saw a stat today, and yeah, Federici's been fantastic. I mean, there was a couple of penalty box scrambles, and he just, he always is the man to turn up and just get in the way and calm everything down. He saved the penalty against Hamed.
Saving the pen.
Did that mental psych out that he does. But yeah, I saw a stat that said it was comparing Birighitti and Federici. Birighitti has 8 clean sheets and has made 65 saves across the season. Federici, 7 clean sheets and 90 saves across the season. Now, that's saying something. The fact that our keeper is having to face so many pops at goal tells you maybe we're allowing too much time in the midfield. Maybe they're all long-range strikes, but maybe we're not tracking enough. We're not doing our job defensively, or maybe we're just allowing too much time. But with someone as safe as Federici, you can get away with 1 or 2, but I wouldn't want us to put that kind of pressure on him in the finals. Hopefully we tighten that up. I think one person we've really missed, and it hasn't been talked about much, but we've really missed Jovanovic. He was a big presence for us earlier in the season. He got us a lot of hard-fought points, and since his injury, it's been really difficult. He's been out actually the majority of the season, and filling that hole that he's been in the midfield, in the back line, has just been tough because he's the one who wins the headers. He's calm on the ball. He's a bit more vocal than Suznia, and despite being not as mobile, he's just the man who pops up in the right spot and settles things, much like Milligan does. So, I hope that maybe he can get back on the field if we make it into the next couple of rounds, but it's unlikely. Hopefully he's back next season feeling better and able to stamp his impact on the game again.
Yeah, 100%. And I should touch on Carl Cimenti, obviously making his sort of debut for us, even though it was only for a handful of minutes. But I thought he looked somewhat sharp on the ball, and obviously he only had a few touches, but he did one pretty solid run, did his man, and sort of took it down the sideline and won the throw-in. But if he can secure something with us next season and just give us something else a bit more dynamic off the bench, we obviously need to see more of him. But I just thought he looked up to speed from the 3 touches he had.
You need to have those different types of players, though, that give you those different qualities. Kyle looks like that more rapid, kind of arriving late in the penalty box kind of striker. He'll drop off, he'll do a bit more, he'll try and get him behind the lines. Someone who can bring other players into the play as well. Derbyshire, like we've discussed so many times before, he's that classic poacher just to get on the end of things, and it comes across in modern football as a little bit one-dimensional, if you're asking me. So someone there who can provide a little bit more, integrate himself into the play a bit more, and actually, you know, take on his man is someone who's maybe a bit more exciting to watch. But again, too hard to call at this early stage. Although has to be said, he took a nice goal on the weekend, and he was playing NPL1 for Northbridge, and you know, scored against Marconi. So you know, he's still in a bit of form, and hopefully we see a bit more of him. You know, it'd be nice to suss him out, and maybe he's a decent striking option for us.
Yeah, I suppose building off from that, you know, we've sort of covered the Mariners game this weekend throughout the entire podcast, but
well, we might as well quickly make our predictions, eh?
Predictions, yeah.
What do you reckon?
Look, I'll take the negative bad cop angle on this one. I think it will be just a 1-0 loss. It'll be a really tight contest, and you know, maybe around the 30 or 40 minute mark, Mariners will get one against us, and then we'll try to fight back like we did last time out against them. But I think they've shown it 3 times this season that they have too much for us, and I think they'll show it again. You?
So you reckon we'll go down in a gallant defeat, where it's like, oh, you know, good job, we got to the finals.
Yeah.
You know, I don't reckon. I think it'll be a mad game. I think it'll be like back and forth, 2-2 at the end of 90 minutes, and then it'll go to extra time. I see Derbyshire causing havoc in the box against the inexperienced pairing in the Central Coast Mariners defense. You've got Matt Hatch and what's his name? Yeah, Kai Rolls. So I think there's an opportunity there. However, once it goes past 90 minutes, I can't see into the crystal ball. Maybe it goes to penalties. Maybe Federici is the GOAT who saves us again, and we get to have that narrative over again. But you know, the real beauty of it is we get to go into this game with no expectation, no fear. Us hitting finals in our first season is already a massive accomplishment. So the pressure's off, and Ante's just got to say to the boys, look, like how far we go now is up to us, and there's no expectation. I think if you cast your mind back across the season, every single time we've been expected to win, we've messed it up. Whereas every time we've not been expected to win, we've come up with some surprising results. So, you know, pressure's on the Mariners, really. They're at home, expecting a big crowd. First time that they're at finals for the last 7 years. So pressure's on them. For us, it's uncharted territory, and the sky's the limit. I think we can pull it out in extra time or in penalties. If we end up getting the result in 90 minutes, even better.
Well, it's sure to be an entertaining one on Saturday night. Hopefully, I mean, even though I think we are going home empty-handed after this first round, obviously would love to see us do a finals charge.
Anything can happen in the finals, mate.
Yeah, exactly. We just play for the 0-0 and win on pens. That's it. Get
him in the second leg, boys. Get him in the second leg.
But yeah, I suppose quickly before we wrap up this one, if you want to touch on it a bit more, Genre obviously getting his debut for the Socceroos.
Yeah, definitely.
And he had quite a decent match.
He had a great match. For a debut, he was alongside Riley McGree, one of the central figures in midfield, and really getting us ticking, and you know, passing through Taiwan's midfield like it was nothing. He put on an excellent little feint, dropped the shoulder, and got around a player or two, put it through for Borello, and then Borello put it on a plate for Mitch Duke for the first of his 2 goals. Now, granted, it's only Taiwan. It's not like they're playing against Germany and, you know, in really mad circumstances. It was no crowd, no atmosphere, and, you know, just a World Cup qualifier. But in saying that, he's had a really good game, and, you know, he's shown that he's not overawed by the occasion. He's able to jump into the national team setup and do some damage. And it was nice little touch to see that he's inherited Mark Milligan's number 5 jersey. Milligan, obviously, in last week announced his retirement, and previously a couple of years ago had announced his retirement from international football. So I can definitely see Genro kind of graduating into that role. I don't know if he'll feature in further World Cup qualifying or if this was just a little experience for him. But yeah, it's good to see that Arnie's having a look at him. Obviously, he knows a bit about him from the Olyroos setup as well. Jonro and Metcalf are pretty much locks to be the midfielders for the Olyroos. So, yeah, great for the kid to get some experience. And, he makes history for us. He's the first MacArthur FC player to make a Socceroos debut. So, congratulations to him. What a champion.
Good on him. And let's hope we've seen it the last couple of games where he's just elevated to that next level. And then if he can push on next season and just boss the mids for us, then we'll be cheering.
The final thing as well, before we go, we got to talk about this. Mark Milligan, our captain, announcing his retirement, but he's going to go into a coaching role at MacArthur FC. What have you made of his impact on us this season? When we first saw that he was being announced as captain, it sort of was this question of, is he past it? Is he too old? Is that setting, our ambitions not high enough, even though he was a, former Socceroos player? What have you made of his impact on the side?
He's definitely been one of our best players this season, but also definitely one of the most consistent. And, sort of stepping into that back line for us and seeing some of the balls he just fizzes out wide and over the top for us from time to time. Just absolute class player. And, great to have him sort of as that experienced veteran, you would say, in the locker room. And, with the sort of plan to keep him on and integrate him into the coaching staff, it'll do wonders for all the young boys we've got coming through. So hats off to Milligan. He's done great for us this season. Couldn't ask for much more.
Yeah, he's been that real leader that we've craved. You can see why Milicic trusted him with the captain's armband. It takes a special type of player as well to shift between that midfield and that centre back role. They are very different. I know that you maybe get a bit more time on the ball at the back when you're in possession, but it's a completely different type of playing. So, he's done exemplary, really, putting his hand up and going, yeah, I can play there when we've needed him to. He's previously done it, of course, but it's, you're thinking, who else could we put there? And, he's just acquitted himself so well. He's been a real great servant for our club in this first year. And, we look forward to seeing him on the sidelines. Hopefully in, the coming years, he's assistant coach with Ante. He's maybe coaching our youth teams or our W League team, or maybe even eventually our A-League team once Ante just decides to move on. It was also nice to see after the match against Wellington, obviously the result didn't go our way, but he was farewelled by the fans who stayed back. And, it was a nice thing, a nice touch for the club to, do a little commemorative jersey for him with a few of the photos of him doing his stuff for us this season. And also a special mention to the Bullpen lads at very short notice. I think he announced his departure from the
5 days before
on
or something.
Wednesday, and by the Friday, the Bullpen boys have put together this banner for him and, had a nice little moment with him after the match. So, yeah, credit to them as well. Mark Milligan, he'll go down as a club legend, as much as we can have legends at this stage of our short lifespan. But, fantastic. First ever club captain, not much more you could ask for. He's done an excellent job.
Yeah, and I suppose that brings us to another close of Bull Banter. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook. We've been building it up pretty recently, getting some good traction going on. And be sure to follow us on Spotify, subscribe to our YouTube, and we'll be here hopefully next week cheering about a victory over Mariners in the finals.
Yeah, definitely. And if you can, make sure you get up there. Like, if you're a MacArthur FC supporter, you're mad if you're not going up there to Gosford to cheer on the boys. Conceivably, this could be the only time we get into the finals for the next 5 years. I mean, I don't want it to be like that, but you never know. So don't miss out on the opportunity. It'll be a great atmosphere. The guys in Gosford hate our guts, so we've got to give them heaps. And we need numbers up there, so get up there. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
Go you Bulls.
Go you Bulls.